The National Security Agency is an intelligence organization of the United States government, responsible for global monitoring, collection, and processing of information and data for foreign intelligence and counterintelligence purposes, a discipline known as signals intelligence. NSA is concurrently charged with protection of U.S. government communications and information systems against penetration and network warfare. Although many of NSA's programs rely on passive electronic collection, the agency is authorized to accomplish its mission through active clandestine means, among which are physically bugging electronic systems and allegedly engaging in sabotage through subversive software. Moreover, NSA maintains physical presence in a large number of countries across the globe, where its Special Collection Service inserts eavesdropping devices in difficult-to-reach places. SCS collection tactics allegedly encompass close surveillance, burglary, wiretapping, breaking and entering. Unlike the Defense Intelligence Agency and the Central Intelligence Agency, both of which specialize primarily in foreign human espionage, NSA does not unilaterally conduct a human-source intelligence gathering, despite often being portrayed so in popular culture. Instead, NSA is entrusted with assistance to and coordination of SIGINT elements at other government organizations, which it prevented by law from engaging in such activities without the approval of the NSA via the Defense Secretary. As part of these streamlining responsibilities, the agency has a co-located organization called the Central Security Service, which was created to facilitate cooperation between NSA and other U.S. military cryptanalysis components. Additionally, the NSA Director simultaneously serves as the commander of the United States Cyber Command and as chief of the Central Security Service. Originating as a unit to decipher coded communications in World War II, it was officially formed as the NSA by Harry S. Truman in 1952. Since then, it has become one of the largest of U.S. intelligence organizations in terms of personnel and budget, operating as part of the Department of Defense and simultaneously reporting to the Director of National Intelligence. NSA surveillance has been a matter of political controversy on several occasions, such as its spying on anti-Vietnam War leaders or economic espionage. In 2013, the extent of the NSA's secret surveillance programs was revealed to the public by Edward Snowden. According to the leaked documents, the NSA intercepts the communications of over 1 billion people worldwide, many of whom are American citizens, and tracks the movement of hundreds of millions of people using cell phones. Most such interceptions did not meet the legal requirements underpinning the agency work. History. Army predecessor. The origins of the National Security Agency can be traced back to April 28, 1917, 3 weeks after the U.S. Congress declared war on Germany in World War I. A code and cipher decryption unit was established as the Cable and Telegraph Section, which was also known as the Cipher Bureau and Military Intelligence Branch. Section 8. It was headquartered in Washington, D.C., and was part of the war effort under the executive branch without direct congressional authorization. During the course of the war it was relocated in the Army's organizational chart several times. On July 5, 1917, Herbert O. Yardley was assigned to head the unit. At that point, the unit consisted of Yardley and 2 civilian clerks. It absorbed the Navy's crypto-analysis functions in July 1918. World War I ended on November 11, 1918, and Mi-8 moved to New York City on May 20, 1919, where it continued intelligence activities as the Code Compilation Company under the direction of Yardley. Black Chamber. Mi-8 also operated the so-called Black Chamber. The Black Chamber was located on East 37th Street in Manhattan. Its purpose was to crack the communications codes of foreign governments. Jointly supported by the State Department and the War Department, the Chamber persuaded Western Union, the largest U.S. telegram company, to allow government officials to monitor private communications passing through the company's wires. Other black chambers were also found in Europe. They were established by the French and British governments to read the letters of targeted individuals, employing a variety of techniques to surreptitiously open, copy, and reseal correspondence before forwarding it to unsuspecting recipients. Despite the American Black Chamber's initial successes, it was shut down in 1929 by U.S. Secretary of State Henry L. Stimson, who defended his decision by stating, "Gentlemen do not read each other's mail." World War II and its aftermath. During World War II, the Signal Security Agency was created to intercept and decipher the communications of the Axis powers. When the war ended, the SSA was reorganized as the Army Security Agency, and it was placed under the leadership of the Director of Military Intelligence. On May 20, 1949, all cryptologic activities were centralized under a national organization called the Armed Forces Security Agency. This organization was originally established within the U.S. Department of Defense under the command of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The AFSA was tasked to direct Department of Defense communications and electronic intelligence activities, except those of U.S. military intelligence units. However, the AFSA was unable to centralize communications intelligence and failed to coordinate with civilian agencies that shared its interests, such as the Department of State, Central Intelligence Agency, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In December 1951, President Harry S. Truman ordered a panel to investigate how AFSA had failed to achieve its goals. The results of the investigation led to improvements and its redesignation as the National Security Agency. The agency was formally established by Truman in a memorandum of October 24, 1952, that revised National Security Council Intelligence Directive 9. Since President Truman's memo was a classified document, the existence of the NSA was not known to the public at that time. Due to its ultra-secrecy, the U.S. intelligence community referred to the NSA as no such agency. Vietnam War. In the 1960s, the NSA played a key role in expanding America's commitment to the Vietnam War by providing evidence of a North Vietnamese attack on the American destroyer Maddox during the Gulf of Tonkin incident. A secret operation code-named Minaret was set up by the NSA to monitor the phone communications of Senators Frank Church and Howard Baker, as well as major civil rights leaders including Martin Luther King, and prominent U.S. journalists and athletes who criticized the Vietnam War. However, the project turned out to be controversial, and an internal review by the NSA concluded that its Minaret program was disreputable if not outright illegal. Church committee hearings. In the aftermath of the Watergate scandal, a congressional hearing in 1975 led by Sen. Frank Church revealed that the NSA, in collaboration with Britain's SIGINT intelligence agency government communications headquarters, had routinely intercepted the international communications of prominent anti-Vietnam War leaders such as Jane Fonda and Dr. Benjamin Spock. Following the resignation of President Richard Nixon, there were several investigations of suspected misuse of FBI, CIA and NSA facilities. Senator Frank Church uncovered previously unknown activity, such as a CIA plot to assassinate Fidel Castro. The investigation also uncovered NSA's wiretaps on targeted American citizens. After the Church Committee hearings, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978 was passed into law. This was designed to limit the practice of mass surveillance in the United States. From 1980s to 1990s. In 1986, The NSA intercepted the communications of the Libyan government during the immediate aftermath of the Berlin discotheque bombing. The White House asserted that the NSA interception had provided irrefutable evidence that Libya was behind the bombing, which U.S. President Ronald Reagan cited as a justification for the 1986 United States bombing of Libya. In 1999, a multi-year investigation by the European Parliament highlighted the NSA's role in economic espionage in a report entitled Development of Surveillance Technology and Risk of Abuse of Economic Information. That year, the NSA founded the NSA Hall of Honor, a memorial at the National Cryptologic Museum in Fort Meade, Maryland. The memorial is a tribute to the pioneers and heroes who have made significant and long-lasting contributions to American cryptology. NSA employees must be retired for more than 15 years to qualify for the memorial. War on Terror. In the aftermath of the September 11 attacks, the NSA created new IT systems to deal with the flood of information from new technologies like the Internet and cell phones. ThinThread contained advanced data mining capabilities. It also had a privacy mechanism. Surveillance was stored encrypted. Decryption required a warrant. The research done under this program may have contributed to the technology used in later systems. ThinThread was cancelled when Michael Hayden chose Trailblazer, which did not include ThinThread's privacy system. Trailblazer project ramped up in 2002. SAIC, Boeing, CSC, IBM, and Litton worked on it. Some NSA whistleblowers complained internally about major problems surrounding Trailblazer. This led to investigations by Congress and the NSA and DoD inspectors general. The project was cancelled in early 2004. It was late, over budget, and didn't do what it was supposed to do. The Baltimore Sun ran articles about this in 2006-07. The government then raided the whistleblowers' houses. One of them, Thomas Drake, was charged with violating 18 U.S.C. 793 in 2010 in an unusual use of espionage law. He and his defenders claim that he was actually being persecuted for challenging the Trailblazer project. In 2011, all 10 original charges against Drake were dropped. Turbulence started in 2005. It was developed in small, inexpensive, test pieces rather than one grand plan like Trailblazer. It also included offensive cyber warfare capabilities, like injecting malware into remote computers. Congress criticized Turbulence in 2007 for having similar bureaucratic problems as Trailblazer. It was to be a realization of information processing at higher speeds in cyberspace. Global surveillance disclosures. The massive extent of the NSA's spying, both foreign and domestic, was revealed to the public in a series of detailed disclosures of internal NSA documents beginning in June 2013. Most of the disclosures were leaked by former NSA contractor, Edward Snowden. Scope of surveillance. It was revealed that the NSA intercepts telephone and Internet communications of over 1 billion people worldwide, seeking information on terrorism as well as foreign politics, economics and commercial secrets. In a declassified document, it was revealed that 17,835 phone lines were on an improperly permitted alert list from 2006 to 2009 in breach of compliance, which tagged these phone lines for daily monitoring. 11% of these monitored phone lines met the agency legal standard for reasonably articulable suspicion. A dedicated unit of the NSA locates targets for the CIA for extrajudicial assassination in the Middle East. The NSA has also spied extensively on the European Union, the United Nations and numerous governments including allies and trading partners in Europe, South America and Asia. The NSA tracks the locations of hundreds of millions of cell phones per day, allowing them to map people's movements and relationships in detail. It reportedly has access to all communications made via Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Yahoo, YouTube, AOL, Skype, Apple, and Paltalk, and collects hundreds of millions of contact lists from personal email and instant messaging accounts each year. It has also managed to weaken much of the encryption used on the Internet, so that the majority of Internet privacy is now vulnerable to the NSA and other attackers. Domestically, the NSA collects and stores metadata records of phone calls, including over 120 million US Verizon subscribers, as well as Internet communications. Relying on a secret interpretation of the Patriot Act whereby the entirety of U.S. communications may be considered irrelevant to a terrorism investigation if it is expected that even a tiny minority may relate to terrorism. The NSA supplies foreign intercepts to the IRS and other law enforcement agencies, who use these to initiate criminal investigations. Federal agents are then instructed to recreate the investigative trail via parallel construction. The NSA also spies on influential Muslims to obtain information that could be used to discredit them, such as their use of pornography. The targets, both domestic and abroad, are not suspected of any crime but hold religious or political views deemed radical by the NSA. According to a report in The Washington Post in July 2014, relying on information provided by Snowden, 90% of those placed under surveillance in the U.S. are ordinary Americans, and are not the intended targets. The newspaper said it had examined documents including emails, text messages, and online accounts that support the claim. Legal accountability. Despite President Obama's claims that these programs have congressional oversight, members of Congress were unaware of the existence of these NSA programs or the secret interpretation of the Patriot Act, and have consistently been denied access to basic information about them. Obama has also claimed that there are legal checks in place to prevent inappropriate access of data and that there have been no examples of abuse. However, the secret FISC court, charged with regulating the NSA's activities, is, according to its chief judge, incapable of investigating or verifying how often the NSA breaks even its own secret rules. It has since been reported that the NSA violated its own rules on data access thousands of times a year, many of these violations involving large-scale data interceptions, and that NSA officers have even used data intercepts to spy on love interests. The NSA has generally disregarded the special rules for disseminating United States person information by illegally sharing its intercepts with other law enforcement agencies. A March 2009 opinion of the FISC court, released by court order, states that protocols restricting data queries had been so frequently and systemically violated that it can be fairly said that this critical element of the overall regime has never functioned effectively. In 2011, the same court noted that the volume and nature of the NSA's bulk foreign internet intercepts was fundamentally different from what the court had been led to believe. Email contact lists are collected at numerous foreign locations to work around the illegality of doing so on U.S. soil. Legal opinions on the NSA's bulk collection program have differed. In mid-December 2013, U.S. District Court Judge Richard Leon ruled that the almost Orwellian program likely violates the Constitution, and wrote, "I cannot imagine a more indiscriminate and arbitrary invasion than this systematic and high-tech collection and retention of personal data on virtually every single citizen for purposes of querying and analyzing it without prior judicial approval." Surely, such a program infringes on that degree of privacy that the founders enshrined in the Fourth Amendment. Indeed, I have little doubt that the author of our Constitution, James Madison, who cautioned us to beware the abridgment of freedom of the people by gradual and silent encroachments by those in power, would be aghast. Later that month, U.S. District Judge William Pauley ruled that the NSA's collection of telephone records is legal and valuable in the fight against terrorism. In his opinion, he wrote, "A bulk telephony metadata collection program is a wide net that could find and isolate gossamer contacts among suspected terrorists in an ocean of seemingly disconnected data," and noted that a similar collection of data prior to 9/11 might have prevented the attack. An October 2014 United Nations report condemned mass surveillance by the United States and other countries as violating multiple international treaties and conventions that guarantee core privacy rights. Official responses. On March 20, 2013, the Director of National Intelligence, Lieutenant General James Clapper, testified before Congress that the NSA does not wittingly collect any kind of data on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans. But he retracted this in June after details of the PRISM program were published, and stated instead that metadata of phone and internet traffic are collected, but no actual message contents. This was corroborated by the NSA Director General Keith Alexander, before it was revealed that the X-Keyscore program collects the contents of millions of emails from U.S. citizens without warrant, as well as nearly everything a user does on the Internet. Alexander later admitted that content is collected, but stated that it is simply stored and never analyzed or searched unless there is a nexus to Al-Qaeda or other terrorist groups. Regarding the necessity of these NSA programs, Alexander stated on June 27 that the NSA's bulk phone and internet intercepts had been instrumental in preventing 54 terrorist events, including 13 in the U.S., and in all but one of these cases had provided the initial tip to unravel the threat stream. On July 31, NSA Deputy Director John Inglis conceded to the Senate that these intercepts had not been vital in stopping any terrorist attacks, but were close to vital in identifying and convicting four San Diego men for sending $8,930 to Al-Shabaab, a militia that conducts terrorism in Somalia. The U.S. government has aggressively sought to dismiss and challenge Fourth Amendment cases raised against it, and has granted retroactive immunity to ISPs and telecoms participating in domestic surveillance. The U.S. military has acknowledged blocking access to parts of the Guardian website for thousands of defense personnel across the country, and blocking the entire Guardian website for personnel stationed throughout Afghanistan, the Middle East, and South Asia.